done.
Group B. Except down at this 8 o'clock position in Teal is Grape. That means at the 10 o'clock position in red is Fantasy. So, alright. Predictions right off the bat. RE5ASD writes, Fantasy will own everyone with his OP Vulture Micro. ... Because if anyone's going to end the OSL with a bang, it'll be the terrorist himself. Link115 writes, Fantasy and Grape seem like the two people that would move out. Grape is a Samsung Protoss under the guidance of Stork, and well, Fantasy's vultures, I guess, are going to terror everyone as usual. Don't think terror is a verb, but I'll let that slide. That girl is looking up if terror is a verb in the audience on her iPhone. Here's another one from Stork Love Silver, writes, Fanta. That's his choice. And the other will be Mini or Rush. Grape sucked last season, I doubt him. Jeez, man. Got something personal against Grape? Go ahead and say it. Alright. Let's get another prediction. Oh, this is my favorite username ever. From B1332213333123111 writes, being an SKT fanboy, I'd pick Fantasy even if under some bizarre circumstance he wasn't the obvious favorite. I don't know enough about the other three, so I'm going to toss my three-sided coin and decide. Okay, I'm going to make a flip sound. Flip! Fantasy Mini for B. Those are your predictions. But Grape is doing something that many Protoss players have been doing recently, delaying the scout to get things rolling inside their main, keeping that scouting probe at home a little bit longer just to get that economy cooking. And Fantasy is already mining on that refinery, so he's going to be doing some goofy stuff soon. Let's look at the score sheet. Always got to flap that score sheet to prove that I have it. That could be anything, really. That could be like a grocery list. Got it right here. So Fantasy is pretty good. He's pretty well off in this game because no matter what happens, he's moving into the round of 8. He's guaranteed to move out, in fact. So if Fantasy wins, he's going to move out into the round of 8. If he loses, he's moving out into the round of 8. But if Fantasy does win, he's going to force a lower rung tiebreaker between all of the Royal Roaders. Mini, Rush, and Grape will all have to play a tiebreaker if Fantasy wins. And if Grape wins, he's moving out alongside Fantasy into the round of 8. So that'll knock out Mini and Rush if Grape wins. And here comes Fantasy going to scout down at this 8 o'clock position, getting in completely uncontested. He's going to see that Cybernetics core spinning. The Dragoon range coming up. And Dragoon's going to chase around this SCV, try to get rid of that first, probably the most important thing. The Fantasy has up his factory now. You see him kind of looking intently there, desperately trying to micro long enough to see the next building coming up, but that's not going to happen. SCV trying to hide in the corner. You can't see me. Nope, totally good. But you're probably thinking, well, if Fantasy doesn't have any pressure on him to do well, Grape kind of has an easier road moving up, right?
Wrong.
Wrong?
Right.
I don't know. I agree with that guy back there. But, yes. Fantasy, is, as I said, is the best performing player of the OSL so far. So that's still a major roadblock for Grape. He's still going to have to play his heart out in this game, even though Fantasy might not be quite at 100%. He's still Fantasy, and he's still the best performing player in the OSL so far. So it's still a major threat. You can see Grape trying to get close enough to micro against the Marines a bit. Fantasy up on his micro, fends off the Dragoon. There's a robotics facility coming up in the starport for Fantasy. Has a tank on the way to protect the second base. I got that starport cooking before the second base though, so he's teching up as quick as he can. But now that he has the 5 Marines and the tank out, it shouldn't be that big of a deal to expand. That's usually what Terran players will want to do anyway, get about that many Marines and a tank or 2 to protect himself. But he's already moving down, Fantasy's moving down, going to try to micro against the Dragoons a bit. I have a feeling this isn't going to last too long with the 3 Dragoons, but here comes the Vulture. If he does have mines, so he's still continuing to push. As the mines there, uh-oh, Grape, what are you doing? Getting a little bit too close to that minefield. Hopefully he saw where the mines were placed. I couldn't tell if they were within range. Oh, the Vulture just sneaks in side of the main. Vulture coming out of nowhere, the freaking terrorist coming out of nowhere, sneaking in. And he has the mine there that can't be scouted yet by Grape, so that's kind of keeping Grape back. And Fantasy harassing at this natural expansion. Oh, Fantasy's making it look easy, honestly. More mines being laid at the natural. Fantasy is such a pain. I can't imagine playing a player like Fantasy. You can tell from Grape's face. That is the I'm playing Fantasy face. That you probably see from many players. But Grape has to be careful. He has to really be careful with all the mines around. He knows that there are a lot of mines placed, and that's why he's kind of tiptoeing around with the Dragoons. But, oh my god. So Fantasy's still harassing that natural expansion, coming in with a drop. He's going to drop Vultures inside the main to continue this onslaught of harassment. Yeah, he's going to drop right inside. I do not think Grape is prepared for this at all. Oh my god. More mines being placed right next to the gateways. So these probes, I don't know where these probes can go. They can't transfer to the natural, so they're basically going to have to hover around the assimilator. I think a Dragoon going down. Wow. So Fantasy, it destroys the Nexus. Fantasy kills the Nexus, and he's still inside this main with Vultures. And Grape can't get to him because of the mine. Oh, wait, finally he has observers out. So that is a huge sigh of relief that's going to come from Grape. Now that he can see the mines, he'll be able to take care of them and stop any additional harassment. Here goes Fantasy. He's not going to let up this harassment. Oh my god, this reminds me so much of Fantasy versus Stork. The 3rd game of the Bacchus 2010 finals. Yeah, just drop ship play. Fantasy has kind of mastered that the past couple of years. But okay, mines cleared. Mines are cleared inside of this main. But Fantasy is just waiting for the opportunity to go right back in there and drop some Vultures.